Wasn't working. I had a little grand entrance for BLB, otherwise known as Brandon Lamont Beach, as he walked in the room. For those of you that don't know what the L is, I did a little bit of research and discovered it's Brandon Lamont Beach. So good to see you, Mr. Chairman. How are you? What'd you do this weekend?
Went to the NASCAR race.
Did you place a bet on it?
Yes.
All right, fantastic.
Kozlowski came in second. I had him. Close but no cigar.
What are y'all here for? This road naming bill? Is that what we're working on? Okay, well, we'll get to that one first then. We've got House Resolution 256. It is our annual road naming bill. We think this is the perfect Frankenstein combination of all of the Senate road namings and all of the House road namings. We did have one request that came in from Clayton County for removal of somebody who is currently in office, which violates their House rules. So that has been removed from this list. I would encourage all members of the Senate to browse through here, make sure that your road naming is here. We will have an opportunity to agree on the floor. Should we miss anything? I'm going to recognize after I entertain a motion, I'll entertain amendments. So I will entertain a motion on House Resolution 256 LC 393932S. Got a motion due pass from Senator Lucas. Do I hear a second? Second from Senator Mallow. I'll entertain any discussion or amendments. Senator Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the appropriate time, I'd like to make an amendment to House Resolution 256 by adding Senate Resolution 102 to it, and that is the naming an intersection for Sean Kornacki. Sean Kornacki was a employee of the Department of Transportation who was clearing out a road in northwest Georgia on one of the stormy nights that we had earlier this session. And he was working by himself. Unfortunately, that tree limb fell on him, and he passed away in the line of duty. And this is coming a little later in session, and I was hoping maybe we could add this on, if that'd be okay. I think it's Senate Resolution 102, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Gooch. Chairman Moore, can you, they're telling me that there was not an ad run. Can you talk about the ad or the conflict checked if either of those
to my understanding, the Department of Transportation actually had a resolution naming the road and the intersection, so there is no conflict. And I just got to see a thumbs up there from the commissioner.
Do you know if the ad was ran, or is that not necessary in this instance as well?
Well, I don't think it's necessary. It's actually Senate Resolution 347. That's Sean Kornacki Memorial Intersection of Walker County to dedicate.
I'm going to recognize Leader Gooch.
It's not unusual for us to do it this way when it's a GDOT employee. We did it for Mr. Spencer when he was killed a few years ago as well.
I just got a text message that said the letter of no conflict has been added to the resolution.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Amendment carries unanimously. We're now on to the underlying bill. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And I'll go ahead and carry this on the Senate side. All right, we're now on to House Bill 189, the truck weights bill. I'm going to take a little bit of chairman's privilege here and walk you through our current posture. I have had extensive conversations with numerous members of this committee, as well as the House sponsor of the bill, as well as the Lieutenant Governor's office, and there are not the votes on this committee to pass the resolution as it passed the House. So we have spent time over the last week to 10 days, as well as through the weekend, working on a sub that we think will do a number of things, and the committee members, that sub is in your folder. But ultimately, we recognize that we're at a crossroads with the executive order that has expired, and we also recognize that we're at a crossroads with our funding and some of the other underlying issues that really serve as a backdrop to this entire conversation. The enforcement pieces and a number of other things that we have heard discussed in the 2 hours or so of testimony we've had on this will be addressed in this sub. You'll see a sunset in the sub, and the reason for that is we think that we need to have a serious conversation around infrastructure funding in the state. Georgia currently ranks 6th to last in terms of infrastructure funding per road mile, and it's a similar number when you look at it on a per capita basis. We're going to get further behind when you consider that a number of states have literally invested billions of dollars of either ARPA funding or their surpluses over the last 2 years into infrastructure, and we really have not done any of that. We've moved money around within the program. We've put, I think, $50 million of money into the baby budget, but we have not done a significant, we've not gone to significant lengths to ensure that we're investing in the much needed future of our infrastructure. What we do know is that any truck weight change, whether it's a 5% change, as we heard from the Georgia Tech professor, or it's a 40% reduction in the life of a road that we heard from the commissioner of GDOT, no matter which of those you look at, a bill is needed to if we're going to move on truck weights, we need to be responsible and protect the assets of the state as it relates to road funding as well. So you're going to hear significant conversation happen over the summer into the fall this year as we begin to look at how to address that next year. But in recognition of a couple industries in particular that we know that have grown accustomed to the executive order that expired last week, and then really in wanting to honor the House sponsor as well as the Senate sponsor that have some particular needs for their areas of the state, we have crafted a more tailored bill that we think will address the key concerns, but will also keep the conversation open moving forward. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Leader Gooch to walk us through the committee sub.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Dolezal. Committee members, if you'll look at LC 3928S, we can go through the bill section by section. Section 1 basically is a carve out for the two industries that we have chosen. That is the timber industry and the ag industry. So those are the two industries that will be given this variance. It'll be a 10% variance of the 80,000 pound weight limit. So this will allow those trucks hauling timber products or ag products to go up to 88,000 pounds. It will be allowed to do so until July 1st of 2024. So it's depending on when the governor signs this bill into law, they would have the extra weight provision until 2024, July 1. Section 2 goes into the weight violations and what the penalties are for that, and we have it tiered separately than what we've seen before. So for the first 5,000 pounds overweight, which is over the 88,000 pounds, there would be a 5-cent per pound penalty. That's from 88,000 to 93,000 pounds. Greater than 93,000 pounds, but less than 100,000 pounds, the penalty is increased to 10 cents per pound for all gross weight. And then if the weight of the vehicle exceeds 100,000 pounds, the fine will be 20 cents per pound. The 20 cents per pound or the 10 cents per pound or the 5 cents per pound would go back to the 80,000 pound limit. No different if you had a speeding ticket today. If you were pulled over in the city of Atlanta or back home, you may have a 10% buffer in that speed limit. For example, local law enforcement normally won't write you a ticket for the first 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, but once you exceed the 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, the fines would be based on the total speed that exceeds the posted speed limit. Same thing in this bill. So if you're overweight by 100,000 pounds, if you have a 100,000 pound weight, your fine would be 20 cents per pound back to 80,000. So that would be a 20,000 pound infraction. And so that's the penalties are stiff for a reason. We've heard from a lot of the industry people in the room that they're okay with the enforcement, they're okay with the fines, they just want to be able to have the extra weight capacity to be able to get their products to the market. And so especially with ag and timber, we believe that this is a fair compromise. There is a variance on this of up to 88,000 pounds, but it's only within the 75 miles of the origin of where the product is being shipped from and to. So they would have this provision up to 75 miles radius. Bridges, similar violations on bridges starts in the bottom of page 3. It deals with the overweight trucks on bridges that are posted, so the fines would be based on the posted weight on those bridges, similar to the way we do today. The other part of the bill allows for local government law enforcement personnel to enforce the weights. It's no longer going to be limited to the Motor Carrier Division of Department of Public Safety. This bill will allow local government law enforcement, whether that's city or county police departments and sheriff's department employees, to enforce the weights. And I imagine they could do that several ways. They can use the manifest and the load tickets that are required to be in the trucks, and they also could have portable scales on their vehicles, so they could pull the portable scales out and weigh the trucks on site, just like Motor Carrier does it today. And I believe that is all that we have put in the bill, Mr. Chairman. Everything else that was in the previous bill is no longer there. To add on to your earlier comments, I think it's important that this committee be engaged fully with the business community, the ag community, and also the Department of Transportation over the next 6 to 8 months. We have to get this freight and logistics plan implemented, but we have to have lots of money to do it, and we believe the people in this room are going to be a key component of that discussion.
Thank you, Leader Gooch. I want to highlight just a couple of things either I missed or you missed, and then maybe to draw a distinction between existing law and what we're doing here. Members of the committee, if you look on line 17, you'll see mention of outside of a non-attainment area. And what this does is it basically precludes this variance from being allowed in a non-attainment area. Well, what is that? That's the following counties: Cherokee, Clayton, Coweta, Cobb, DeKalb, Douglas, Fayette, Forsyth, Fulton, Gwinnett, Henry, Paulding, and Rockdale. So essentially, Metro Atlanta, this variance will not be allowed. We will revert to existing code in basically the Metro Atlanta area. What is not included in the 88,000 allotment that is here, that will remain at 84, is D, E, and F and under the current code, which is granite, solid waste or recovered materials, and concrete that is freshly mixed or unhardened for safe delivery to customer. Everything else moves up to the 88 outside of these attainment areas. The last thing that I would just point out, Leader, that maybe you just didn't get to, is 153 to 157 allows local law enforcement to essentially have probable cause to conduct a weighing of a truck on their roads. We've obviously know that we currently have, I think that was mentioned, a couple hundred people around the state to ensure the enforcement and compliance of these provisions. We know that's not enough. Leader, I think you told me that local municipalities can purchase a scale for about $4,000.
Correct.
Is that accurate? And so we want to
we were told 16,000 for a set of 4.
For a set of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to just ensure that the locals whose roads will come under the same variance here have the ability to enforce that. And with that, I'm going to open up for discussion and questions. I'm going to recognize these in the order I saw them come up. Senator Lucas.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, are you saying those kinds excluded? If I run up to 88,000, I get ready to come through Henry County, I got to get rid of some weight.
That's correct.
Can I add
Sure.
one thing? Let me remind everyone, if you're driving on any interstate highway in Georgia or across the country, the weight limit's 80,000 pounds. There is no variance for that. The only exception is if you're bringing a load of goods out of the port and it's on a sealed container and it's an indivisible load. So in other words, you're going to leave Savannah's port and you're going to drive to anywhere in Georgia or outside of Georgia. As long as you don't stop and break that load, you're allowed to go up to 100,000 pounds, but it's primarily on interstate routes.
Well, I
So
understand.
That's the only exception.
I understand that, but also, you're saying that dump trucks are excluded from the tonnage based on this bill. It's all agriculture. Well, what about when you're doing the highways, the folks that fix the highways? We talking about payload too.
Yeah, so the dump trucks under this bill would remain at the 84,000 pounds that they've been at for the however many years prior to the executive order.
Oh, okay.
Looks like Senator Ginn, Chairman Ginn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things. In the 75-mile radius that you're talking about for a truck, and I know that the commissioner's here and he might be able to address this, but there'd be times when somebody can't go across the bridge, they've got to get outside the 75 miles. What would be the situation with that? Because we do have a lot of bridges that would not allow for these trucks to go over.
When I read the word radius, I do it from a straight line perspective. So if you put the pin in the center and you draw a 75-mile radius in a circle, then that's your radius. How you get there is up to you.
But if they can't get there because of the bridge being raided, not able to cross that, they can't carry that load then.
Then I would suggest you talk very nicely to the enforcement officer that has you pulled over.
So for me, I noticed that this bill does not authorize the state or any agency of the state to look at scales where these products are being delivered. Is that correct?
This bill is a one-year timeout. It's to help the ag community and the timber industry to continue what they're used to doing for the last 2 years under the executive order. And so it gives us time as a policy board to get together with our Department of Transportation and everyone in the industry, come together and try to solve a major problem that we're facing in this country, and that is the heavy trucks, but also the congestion on the highways in a growing state like ours, with the fastest growing port in the nation. We have to upgrade our infrastructure, and it has to start with the people in this room.
So our partners that I want to help to move their freight, are not willing to give their scale information to the state.
We are not talking about that in this bill at this time.
And just to be clear for the committee, you're referencing the actual private entities that are doing weights at a timber location that we heard testimony about.
Whether it be timber or ag products or what, that, if we had access to those scales, we can work, because then we know we have 100% compliance, and we can stop the bad actors that are going, like the citation I passed out at our former meeting where I had a truck that was 130,100 pounds.
We believe with extra enforcement by law enforcement at the local level, that we will start to identify who some of the bad actors are. They're going to be on secondary roads. They'll be on some of the state routes. And when the sheriff's department and the police department start to pull them over and they can show that there's bad actors in the room, they'll be fined accordingly, and they'll have to go to court, and they'll have to pay very excessive fines.
Thank you, Chairman Ginn. I believe Chairman Anavitarte was next. No? I'm sorry, that's Senator Mello.
Well, Senator Beach was first on that.
Good. You do first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members that worked on the substitute, I really do appreciate you and the work that you've done here. My question is, it relates to the collection of the fees for enforcement. If these folks are going to be on state roads, is it going to be the local governments that collect the fees, or does the state collect the fees? Where does the revenue go from the increase in citations? Because I just have a question about that. I didn't see where it was spelled out here, but under normal traffic citations, if Georgia State Patrol pulls you over, that goes to the local jurisdiction that handles that. So I just want to ask that question for clarity on the fees.
My interpretation, talking to Ledge Council, is both. Portions of the fees will go to the state, portions will go to the local governments. So local governments will get the fine revenue for the tickets that are issued by the local governments. And the public safety personnel, I believe, they're adjudicated by the Department of Administrative Services. So that fine money will continue to go where it goes.
Recognize Chairman Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you as chairman and Leader Gooch and really the entire committee for having input on this committee sub. I think it's a good compromise. I think that it's great that it sunsets in 1 year, and we need to do this now so that we can continue with the governor's executive order playing out. But I think what we need to do, and I think the reason it's important that it sunsets, as Leader Gooch said, we've been studying freight and logistics for 4 years. And this needs to be part of an overall comprehensive freight and logistics program, and how we fund freight and logistics and move freight and logistics through our state and yet protect our roads and our infrastructure. So I think this is a good compromise. It's a good start, and I would be willing to make a motion at the proper time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Beach. Any other discussion from the committee? I don't see any other lights illuminated, so this would be the appropriate time.
Okay. I would move do pass LC 393928S.
We have a motion, do pass. We have a second. Senator McLaurin. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. I've got 7 in favor. All those opposed, like sign. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries 7-4. Thank you, members of the committee. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. You're just in time for us to adjourn. So, this meeting is adjourned. Are you going to carry this in the Senate? Russ Goodman's going to carry it. Okay.